if other CRMs are not integrating a language model like we are, there will be no chance for them anymore.
Right.
This is coming very soon. So imagine you be able to go to GorillaDesk. Hey, I want you to create a report on this with these fields. Send me this report every week at this time. Let me know strategically based on what's happening in my system where I should expand.
All right, guys, we got a different episode for you guys today. I told you all in 2025, 2026, we're going to be doing some podcasts, and we're starting out with one of the best in the industry. Here's Moreschi of GorillaDesk, CEO, founder. You guys know I've been using GorillaDesk for about 5 years now, pretty much since I started my pest control business in 2020, 2021. The platform has evolved a lot over the last year or two, but specifically since even I've got on. And a lot of you guys have a lot of GorillaDesk questions in general for me. It's been a while since I've really done any GorillaDesk content. So I figure why not go ahead, have Chris on, go over just where GorillaDesk started, what the future is. It's a lot of pest control, but I know he's gotten into, I think, lawn care, pool, all that. We'll talk about that. And of course, one of my favorite subjects, AI. We'll talk about that as well and just kind of go from there. So, welcome, Chris.
Awesome, Griffin. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I can't wait, man. It's gonna be awesome discussion for everybody.
Yeah, no. The very first question that I figured I would always like to start asking everybody when I do these podcasts, because everyone's got their little zinger question, just kind of offbeat. And I know because I see the guitar in the background, I already know part of the answer to this, but what is your favorite, I guess, outlet, hobby, whatever the case may be? It can be more than one, but if you had to, just name one, what is like that thing that gets your creative mind going, regardless if it's for a GorillaDesk task or whatever it may be in the entrepreneurial spirit, I guess.
Well, I'd say, there's a difference between like I want to relax and kind of unwind and kind of let creativity flow, and that's music for sure. I started playing guitar when I was 13 years old. My dad always wanted me to be the next Hendrix. So he was like, "Man, you got to practice every day for 5 hours a day or else."
Right.
And I hated him for it until I loved him for it, and I became, a pretty good guitarist. And
Yeah. I see some of your videos. I think on Facebook from time to time you'll do a little thing. I'm like, man, pretty pretty good. I know my fingers can't work like that. So yeah, no, I figure like I said, I knew the answer, but just give the audience a little insight on you. Also, I thought of this question when I first signed up for Gorilla Desk. Why the gorilla specifically? Like what was it
yeah,
about the gorilla?
it's It's really, going about finding, the right name for what I was trying to accomplish, and, I didn't wanna be another field or service named application because it's so many, it's a drop in the bucket how many there are, and so I wanted to build a brand, and I like building brands off of mascots. It's kind of my preference because I like to have a character to lean into, and so, the very first names were like Service Kiwi, Route Raven, like, I must have had 5 pages front and back of all types of, an animal with what I was trying to accomplish,
Mm.
and as soon as I put Gorilla Desk down, I knew it right then. I'm like, "This is strong, this is compelling, it is all-encompassing, it can become the platform," and luckily, right when I put it down, I had, like, that anxiety of, "Alright, let's go see if the domain's available, and we're gonna get
Right.
this thing or not."
Yeah.
And then it was, and then that was it. It was just like, "Alright, I got it." But it probably took me, like, I don't know, 60 days of mulling over and going over page per of all types of names. And in the
Right.
beginning, like, it was Service QE because I'm like, "We're just gonna name it something fun,
Yeah.
go." And, we never end up bringing that name to market, but that was what it was like before I actually brought it to the market.
Wow. Yeah. That 60 days. Wow. You were really, really, really brainstorming on it. I know,
Yeah.
I had probably, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know I tried probably 7 or 8, maybe even more different just businesses over my entrepreneurial journey. And it seemed like with names, I was always just kind of what you said, throwing them at the wall, so to speak, see what kind of sticks. And then also, of course, what's available. That's one thing I think a lot of people don't consider whenever you're talking about domains, domain names. I know even I with preferred pest management didn't really put enough thought into that. Like we have one of the longest URLs it feels like out there, and it's a .org instead of .com. But now that we're like 5 years in, I'm like, do we really want to go through all those SEO hiccups with changing to shorter .com? So yeah, there's definitely a lot that goes into that that not a lot of people, especially in the home service sector, you don't really think about stuff like that. You're just thinking about I can start the business and make a quick buck and charge maybe less than a competitor, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be going in. But yeah, no, it's always interesting to hear how just different brands are thought of. And I know GorillaDesk was one of them. That was what I knew from the start. I was like, this is going to be a question I ask because I don't know if you guys have like I'm guessing a graphic design team of some kind now.
I mean, we have a creative direct we have probably the best creative team
Yeah,
of anybody in my space. So comprised of 4 specialists that are killers at what they do.
yeah, I could tell because, like, especially since you all been starting to dive in, like we'll talk about in a little bit, the AI with AI agents and stuff. Whenever you all started kind of promoting that, just the graphics for it were just
Yeah.
insane.
The
Like,
whole next campaigns you're gonna see Griffin are gonna even be more next level because we can take advantage of all the new AI video, compelling content. I don't know if you've seen, I've created a whole cast of characters for the Gorilla Desk world essentially, and we're gonna bring all those characters, have IP on all those characters, and bring them to life. And so, what's so great about AI is it's enabling our small person team to do so much more damage in video creation. So you'll see some really cool ads come up. Have you seen those talking gorillas?
yeah,
The
yeah,
yeah,
yep,
so something
yep.
like that, but it's going to be with our actual characters.
Wow, wow, yeah. Because I saw you all. I think you all just acquired or partnered with some type of sales. I think it was a door to door.
Exactly. We bought door-to-doorsales.com. I was able to acquire that domain. Great,
Mhm.
impactful domain. Because we're rolling out Door Mamba, which is, a snake-oriented
Yeah,
mascot, but it's going to be for our door sales application that's going to sync directly with GorillaDesk. And the
right.
whole idea around Door Mamba is to kind of get get everybody familiar with what door-to-door sales is. Essentially, we're gonna have a freemium model where the solo operator can jump on and just start using it for free, and probably a small team freemium option as well, just to have another source of while you guys are out in the field understanding how door-to-door works. We'll have all the educational content available on door-to-doorsales.com and Door Mamba, as well as, scripts that are being utilized. What's pretty cool is Jonas has a lot to weigh in on that, because he's got
Oh,
a
okay.
a very large, door-to-door sales team out
Yeah.
there, and there's quite a few other large companies that wanted to remove the bloat out of the current door-to-door sales products and streamline it down. That's what we've been doing. So you should see Dormamba hit the market, like, right before Pest World, probably within the next 3 months or so.
Okay. Yeah, no, awesome. Yeah, and that kind of leads into a topic I wanted to talk about with like Dormamba, for example. So is that still going to be kind of like a separate entity then of Gorilla Desk, or do you see it kind of slowly but surely, I guess, being integrated within the Gorilla Desk platform?
In the beginning, so everything has when you roll out, it's iterative, and
Mhm.
you'll notice that with a lot of our products, we're releasing beta, and then soon
Right.
later we get all the feedback and we do another version, and then we get more feedback and we do one more version. That's kind of like how we like to iterate because the feedback from you guys is the best feedback, and you guys come up with things that generally we may not have thought of at the
Yeah.
at the moment. So that's kind of how I like to roll it out. And the same thing's gonna happen with Dormom. It's gonna roll out for all current GorillaDesk users as an add-on in the system. You just simply turn it on, and you'll already have a Dormamba account just
Mhm.
automatically. It'll be synced with your GorillaDesk account
Okay.
already, so you won't have to do anything. So in the beginning, it's going to be all about serving our current clients to get them to learn and adopt it on that first rollout. And then next, what we believe is there'll be a lot more verticals that are going to come, want desire to have that application that will
Mhm.
introduce those verticals to GorillaDesk. But then they're going to start saying, "Hey, can you guys put Dormamba working with our CRM?" And so that's kind of like be the third phase. So that's kind of how we see it. Roll it out for you guys, get all the feedback there, start to introduce it to other verticals that are also very interested, and then
Mhm.
start to introduce it to those vertical CRMs outside of the Gorilla Desk CRM.
Right.
But it will still be a Gorilla Desk family product. It won't
Right.
end up being its own brand rollout because it's very tightly integrated with the GorillaDesk
Right.
application.
So with that, it almost sounds like there won't be a need to integrate it ourselves, like with Zapier and tools like that. Is that right?
That's what we're trying to avoid. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we want
Okay.
it to sync directly with the services, and, the
Yeah.
job scheduling calendar and everything. So that essentially you're knocking on the door, you're setting the status of that door, you're getting the customer detail, you're building the plan right there with them, you're getting them to sign off, they're getting confirmation by email, text message, or a phone call. They're accepting that custom built contract on the fly. That contract generates a service type and syncs to a service type in GorillaDesk. And then you select which technician you want to end up assigning that initial service to and where you want it on their calendar.
Mhm.
It'll sync with the Mamba calendar API for your text availability. We'll sync with GorillaDesk availability. And then you'll go ahead and slot that job in there. And that's exactly how it will work.
Yeah, yeah. No, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because I know with certain features in terms of Zapier, for example, um, sometimes it can be, of course, for the older guys, so to speak, or even just non-technical guys. I say older guys, but my brother, who's actually younger than me, is even worse than me when it comes to tech. When I try talking to him about any of it, it's just like eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
Essentially, I know sometimes it can be difficult, and then like what I even noticed too is like sometimes, especially when you're doing it just with like Zapier versus say you're trying to utilize the API yourself, like um, Zapier is going to be more limiting, of course, in terms of what all is available. That kind of leads also to, in terms of, I even heard this, I think, whenever you're on Jonah's podcast, as a matter of fact, where you mentioned something along the lines of, longer term, you want to see grow. That's just continue to grow more into this like all in one platform to where you're not having to sit here pulling webhooks and this and that from the API. So, with that, like, what would you say is kind of, I don't know if necessarily like order of importance, but where do you kind of see that longer term, I guess, like
Well,
unfolding?
it's exactly right. Our clients expect GorillaDesk to be an all-in-one platform.
Hmm.
The expectation's there. They want it to be an all-in-one platform. They want it to be, let me just turn on a button and it
Right.
works. That's what our
Right.
clients want. So that's what
Oh
we
yeah.
want to strive for. And it's very difficult when you want to say you want to be the Swiss Army knife and do everything because
Yeah.
becoming a
Oh,
platform and
absolutely.
doing everything is like you're basically becoming every company type in one.
Exactly.
Um, but well, that's the challenge that Gorillas is undertaking. So I don't know if you noticed recently, we just came out with our own contact form direct embeds.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yep.
don't have
Yep.
to do Zapier anymore.
Right.
And the other thing about Zapier is those zaps sometimes pause and fail. And
Yeah.
then you're like, what's happening? And then you got to self diagnose and you're like,
Yep.
oh man, I forgot that those things are even running.
Right. Right.
So really, we want to have a level of where you don't need that. Like the redundancy is there because it's already baked in and built in the GorillaDesk. So you're not having to
For sure.
have any broken components.
Right.
So the contact form was like number one because people are coming through other
Mm-hmm.
CRMs and they're like, man, I love this over here. You guys got to do it. So
Yep.
we did it. And you can see like we listen to the community when they're saying, man, we want this, or I'm coming from this application. This is really what we value. We're taking all that down. We're implementing.
Right.
Um, so what are the things are you having to connect outside the lead form? And a lot of it has to do with all the advancements we made in the portal.
Mm.
So this kind of parlays into AI.
Right. Right.
In AI, in the customer portal now, we've embedded the online booking widget. We've embedded the full AI into the portal chat, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So they can actually start to talk with your AI receptionist. So you saw that full overhaul we also did
Oh yeah.
of the portal to make it completely streamlined, simple, more robust, so that your portal delivers a whole lot more value if the
Right.
customer can sit there and interact with the AI. With AI now, they can see when their appointments are. They can request all the information that would actually be within their portal, and the AI
Mm-hmm.
will know the account.
Right.
Will be able to reschedule the job. Will be able to change the card details. So this is great. This is
Yeah.
what we need. This is also where we're pulling ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I was so happy to see. I know that we're all like jumping into ChatGPT and to
Oh
learn what the new SERPs basically look like because people are
yeah.
going away from Google And we're watching how they're using the language models are utilizing the data from Google to serve up
Mhm.
our local service business content, as well as any information about GorillaDesk. You know what was interesting is we had somebody that's interested in GorillaDesk go to their
Mhm.
ChatGPT and say, "Hey, how can I learn more about the new features of GorillaDesk?" The LLM went into a Facebook chat and pulled Chad's direct Calendly and said, "If you wanna learn more about features, contact Chad Moreschi directly." Can you believe that?
It's insane.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's like deep
Yeah.
linking down, you know?
Like, as if you were to go step by step on Facebook
Exactly,
and do that. Right.
exactly, and another
That's
thing
an
that's
LLM model. Yeah.
exactly, another thing that's cool that I did yesterday is I asked it, "Hey, what's the best natural pest control companies in Miami?"
Mhm.
So I was looking what local SERPs looks like, you know?
Right.
And then I said, "Well, which one of these if would you recommend to call right now as the first choice?" And I recommend all of you guys do that. Why?
Mhm.
Because what's gonna happen is these LLMs are gonna be in all types of hardware, right? So I'll just be sitting here in the future and I'll say, uh, whatever my my AI is
Yeah,
called,
yeah. Yeah.
"Jeeves, just call the best pest control company and get them out here." That's all that's gonna be.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you're not that top choice by the LMMs on whatever, you gotta look at them all,
Mhm.
Gemini, and et cetera, um, OpenAI, et cetera. You gotta be looking at that because at
Exactly.
some point here in the near future, they're gonna monetize this,
Mhm.
okay? And then the guy that and right now, they're not.
Right.
Right now, there's a
It's a
land grabs for
wild
free,
west. Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
free. So
Mhm.
if you can come up as a top suggestion for free, you're doing something right, and you're kind of also establishing yourself, positioning yourself until the day that they turn on the monetization switch, and then you don't have that advantage anymore.
Yeah, I compare it even to like the Google business profile before Google local service ads came out.
Yes.
Because for the longest, yeah, you might have a Google ad, couple Google ad blue links at the top, maybe one or two. And then it went straight into three. And at one point, I remember even five different map listings. And it would take up like over half the page, especially on a phone. Then you'd finally get to the other blue links and stuff like that. And of course, we know that roughly half to two-thirds of people skip the ads, but they don't skip the Google local because that green check mark with the guarantee, all that stuff now. But I compare it to those days before Google local because it
Yep.
was like something ridiculous, like 80, 90%. It's dropped a little bit. I think it's down to like two-thirds now, but like it was like almost everybody. If you were in that top two to three, you were getting the call. Where now this is like putting that on top of, I would say, a much more advanced version of Alexa. Essentially, like
Yeah.
you were saying, you can literally talk to it and just say, "Get them out here." Of course, maybe not today, but like you said, I think people are underestimating. They're like, "Oh man, just think 5 years from now." I'm like, "Dude, think like 6 months from now." Like, nah, whatever you think is 5 years, it's more like 6 to 12 months because it's just so rapid the
I
movement.
kind of almost feel like it's now. There's not one person that I'm
Yeah,
talking to that's not using it in some way.
yeah, exactly.
It's
It's
probably the highest, fastest adopted product of anything we've ever seen,
yeah.
even
Oh,
even among non-technical people, especially.
yeah, because they can literally you don't have to be technical with, like, sure, the more that you are, the more you're gonna benefit in terms of if you wanna dive in and create GPTs and everything else, but you can literally hand it to your grandmother, install a ChatGPT widget onto her phone where she doesn't even have to open the app. It has a search bar essentially in there. You can just do it right there and everything. I mean, it can write the text for her. If she doesn't feel comfortable typing, she can talk to it, whatever the case may be. Like I said, it's like Alexa and Siri, all this on just AI steroids.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's insane. Which I guess that kind of you kind of hit on briefly. Just the whole AI agent thing in terms of the GorillaDesk portal. I know even me, like I almost kind of underestimated it. Like I gave it a ton of information because I had a coincidentally right at the same time open phone came out with what's called I think Sona,
Mhm.
and we had a bunch of stuff that we fed that thing. So we essentially just fed all that into the GorillaDesk one. And it was like, let's see what happens. And of course, being the first time running it, wasn't very good right from the get go. It just, I think we put too much in certain areas of it and then not enough in others. So like it was just trying to one, process all that, but two, if somebody asked something, it just gave them the whole list. For
Yeah.
example, asking about a service,
Yeah.
it would say, "Oh yeah, if you need this service, it's either going to cost this much," with something
Yeah.
listed out. So I actually had to pause mine. We're in the process of almost kind of programming it, so to speak, and testing it back and forth. I love that test feature that you all have too. That definitely helps big time.
What's cool, Griffin, is you can kinda override what's happening with all of that in the primary script. We give you a
Mhm.
primary script for it to follow, and maybe even in the script you can say, "Hey, keep your answers down to this and keep them succinct and sharp." You can give it a directive and then see how it changes.
Right,
So
right,
that
right.
directive script, imagine anything you can imagine to tell it as a human, like, "Hey, don't make your answers that long," and it will do it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Um,
and I didn't even think about that early on either, because even when you're chatting with, say, ChatGPT or something, you'll just tell it, "Hey, I just need," if you're being lazy with it, I guess, like, "I just need a LinkedIn post about this," for
yeah,
example, and then it'll give you, like, some essay, and you're like, "No, dude, all I need is this," like, make it a quote, essentially,
yeah.
and then, you're sitting there, like you said, talking to it like you would an employee that you're training or something like that, and that's I actually just had a post on LinkedIn, funny enough, about that, where, like, it's crazy to me how this idea of what are they calling it? AI prompt engineering is becoming like a marketable skill when if you break it down, all it is how do you communicate? Like if you're able to communicate with people, you will be able to communicate with the AI. It's not a special code or anything like that. Like it's just
Right.
being able to communicate that. Almost
Anyone
like you're
can do
giving it a SOP. Yeah.
Yep, exactly, anyone can do it, it's just natural language,
Hmm.
and I feel like where people get stumped is that it because it has unlimitless possibilities.
Right.
It's limitless what you can
Yeah.
actually, tell it to do for you, and that's where
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get stuck, and another thing is when we initially released it, it's the initial version, and since then to now, we're on a completely different language model because
Right.
we've
Yeah.
learned what works and doesn't work, so I encourage everybody, if you tried it, get back in. It's
Hmm.
way better now than it ever was, and
Oh yeah.
basically every week, the AI team focuses on direct improvements to that,
Right.
model. So, another thing to kinda mention about is GorillaDesk came out with our AI agents for text messaging and the customer portal.
Right.
So, essentially, you can have an AI chat representative behind your any type of text messaging,
Hmm.
as well as if they're going to your website and jumping into the portal or getting direct links from you to their invoices, documentation, jobs, that will direct them into their portal where they'll have the ability to chat to your AI representative that will answer any question as long as you've got it dialed in your content exactly as anybody you would hire would,
Exactly.
and even better and do it X scale and when you're sleeping.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
The very next thing, I know you guys talking a little bit about, is gonna be rolling that right out to voice,
Right.
right? Being able to just switch that on, all the content you have there, just turn it on for voice, and
Mhm.
then you will have what I believe is the trifecta. You got SMS, you've got voice, and you got your portal, and that's everything you need to have a completely autonomous, basically, agent working on your behalf.
Which I don't think for the guys that are, like, just starting or, even that were in my shoes just a year ago even, where, you're kind of at that level where it's like, "Dude, I know I need to hire," but and you always generally wanna hire an admin first. You might hire a tech, just depends, but, usually admin is kinda first, especially for most guys. They're more field driven. That's the last thing they wanna let go of. I think a lot of them are just underestimating, I guess, the power of just how much this could actually unlock that potential, in regards to, for example, you all offer, what is it, something like 100 or I forget the exact number, like, credits per month. You even had a post, I think, in the Facebook group this morning about that, how, like, hey, if you're on just the pro plan, the cost of that, it's like break even. You're essentially getting however way you look at it, something for free in terms of those credits if you utilize all those. And not just that, but how much money are you saving by not having, you can push the hiring the admin can down the road a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I am trying to basically enable everyone to be able to adopt it with as least friction as possible. And so we said you'll get $100 of basically AI usage every month for free
Right. Right.
with your account every month. So your pro plan, if you're starting users, 100. You get
Exactly.
$100 in AI conversations. There's no doubt you should turn that on. And if you turn that on and that closes one extra job for you, you've actually already
Mhm.
paid for your growth plan. And
Exactly.
you should already be on growth and taking advantage of everything so what I'm trying to do is get people a free way to execute against getting into our top tools with the top AI that would ever be available and
Right.
empower every operator no matter how small.
Yes, exactly. And I know even me, I just upgraded to the growth plan. What was it about? Oh man, you all ran a sale on it actually a while back now. And of course, got to hop in on that, especially that deal you all had at the time. I forget what it was, but we've been on it ever since. With the new technician we have, all that stuff, same thing. Like we didn't downgrade it, none of that, because there's just so much in there. And I know at some point I want to have your brother chat, right? Because he's kind of the mastermind, so to speak, it seems, in terms of breaking down just how you can utilize every ounce of that growth plan. Want to have him on at some point. Matter of fact, he just reached out to me this morning. I was like, dude, the timing's hilarious on that. But um, even I'm just now finally, now that I'm kind of getting out of the field a little bit more, instead of being out in the field 40 to 80 hours a week, it's like maybe 10. And I've had a lot more time to dive in there. And the smart views, for example, is just
Yeah,
one of those things that also it pays for itself because instead of having to go through, I know when I first ran email marketing campaigns before any of this was able to really be done with GorillaDesk, you had to kind of go through and, either utilize the heck out of tags on
yes,
accounts or literally go through and just hand pick customers that you wanted certain emails to go to. And then you could upload it into Mailchimp or whatever you're using.
right.
Where now you can just go into the smart views, do a couple filters based on what you want, save it, boom. It takes like 1 to 5 minutes. First time you use it, it takes a little bit because you're like, oh wait, no, I don't want this. I want that. Similar to AI really. But once you do it once or twice, I mean, we've got like I think 15 different smart views at this point, maybe even more.
Yeah,
And I mean, it makes it where we can just rapid fire automations of MailChimp to be like all those other companies where, we might get annoyed by them from time to time, but, sending out those 1 to 3 emails a week, regardless if it's current customers that we want to inform them that maybe they're just on GPC and we want to sell them on Mosquito or past client checking in. Hey, usually do one-time services. It's that time of year again.
yeah.
It opens up so many opportunities.
So your audience understands the smart view is basically just building a custom list,
Exactly.
filtered list, but the way we deliver it is it's basically a list sits in your inbox that
Hmm.
has an auto dialer, a batch SMS messenger, and a batch
Right.
email. So now you have SMS as well. I don't know if you
Hmm.
knew that, but SMS is there. So
I did notice that.
it's
Yeah.
those are really ideally also a way to introduce everyone and to have the proper sales pipeline because
Yes.
everybody drops the ball on follow-up and expansion revenue, trying to get their current customers to buy more. You should be
Right.
building out smart views for follow-up. A lot
Mhm.
of in our business, follow-up is real quick because people want it,
Oh, yeah.
right
Oh, yeah.
away. But when you can also build lists to reach out to your current client base based on what service they have or don't have, and create
Yes.
cohorts for outreach.
Right.
Um, so I'm really trying to get people to understand how to utilize smart views as well as opportunities. Because
Yes.
if you're not tracking the opportunities that you could close, there's bigger quotes, there's bigger estimates, the anything that needs a proper follow-up where you don't wanna drop the ball, you wanna get that account. You should have an opportunity that goes through sales stages as well, and, opportunities is part of that whole process.
Yeah, we've really been starting to dive into I'm glad you brought that up because I almost totally forgot about that, the opportunities part. Because especially I love how it almost has kind of a spreadsheet vibe in terms of, you have kind of your different columns of like, first and foremost, are they even qualified? And then, okay, we've reached out to them, they're still qualified. This is the second. And then you just have straight up, not qualified. And then, okay, we've reached out to them multiple times. It's a month plus. That's a lost lead at this point. But then, like you said, you can still go into smart views and set a filter to, hey, even though we lost those ones, let's hit them with either SMS, email, whatever the case may be.
What's gonna be cool is next we'll be introducing workflows where you can do automation with anything that's happening with customers that are coming in or out of your smart views. So if X customer is a match and lands into this smart view, then trigger this workflow automatically.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's something you'll be seeing that's pretty cool, as well as drip email campaigns, part of those workflows inside GorillaDesk directly.
Right, right. Yeah, and I guess is that speaking of the whole all-in-one, going back to that kind of for a second, does that kind of, in a way, almost eliminate the need for like a Mailchimp or these, third party
Yeah,
like email, SMS
that's the point.
services, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I was wondering because I remember I even used ChatGPT for this because I know the terms of service back in the day on the SMS was like, hey, this is not like for marketing,
Right.
essentially. And even ChatGPT to this day will be like, oh no, that's kind of a gray area. I was just using,
So
Mailchimp, whatever the case
I
may
don't know
be.
if you've noticed this, but
Mhm.
when you go to use the batch communication, and if there is something spammy in your language, we actually prevent you from sending it and we notify you.
We did
So
notice
we're
that.
preventing you from hurting yourself.
Right,
We're
right.
preventing you from damaging the reputation with the service providers around your phone
Yeah.
number and email by already running an AI that's
Okay.
identifying everything there that could say, "Hey, this can be flagged by the provider." It's just telling you the language needs to be changed. Because a lot of
Right.
times, if you just put like the word weed, the
Yes.
word weed, it kills you, and
That's
people don't
100%.
understand that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because we just actually, my technician who I brought on had a weed and fertilizer, lawn ornamental background, and we're utilizing his license and starting that in our business now too. And we went to do a blast SMS with that, and sure enough, yeah, it
Yeah,
said, we now offer weed and fertilizer services, something like that. And sure enough, like 90% of them. What I did notice a pattern though, and I don't know if you noticed this or if it's maybe even designed that way where if we had already texted that customer in the past and they responded to us, like it's got the I think it's like a little check mark by their phone number, like in the account in the sidebar whenever you're looking at the desktop platform. Those messages sent through
yeah.
still. It was
Those are
mostly the ones
validated.
like you hadn't reached out
That's right.
before. And that's where and it made sense because like you said, especially, you don't want to getting flagged as abuse or spam, whatever the case may be. I even just had an email yesterday who um I guarantee you all she did was move it to her spam folder, like she pretty much deleting it, and it marked it as abuse. So there, it was only one, so and that was our first ever, but still we had to go through this whole verification thing because of that. And
Right.
yeah, no, it definitely it makes sense thinking about it now, especially since you mentioned the whole weed and anything of that nature. Like, okay, yeah,
Especially anything related to guns. Anything
right,
generally will also get blocked, so you just gotta be careful.
100%.
Anything related to drugs and guns, they got, like, a big they're stamping those out, saying, "No way."
Right.
So,
Interesting. Yeah, then I guess that kinda clears that up. It's just kinda retooling the wording on some of those, maybe like in our case, saying just lawn services, something of that nature. Only issue with that is, of course, we might have some people thinking mowing and weed eating, and absolutely not. But, at least it opens the door for the conversation, if nothing else, I guess. But no, yeah, I never thought about it. I never dove into it. I know just enough when it comes to that type of marketing. I always say the words like to be dangerous, essentially. Just enough to kinda put it out there, get some customers back in the door, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I never really dove into just the whole legal side of it, but it definitely makes sense and probably is going to help countless number of people out there too.
yeah,
Yeah, I ran into that yet for sure.
yeah. We're proud of doing that for everyone actually, because everybody's out there unknowingly sending communication out that they shouldn't be.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's definitely something where, like I said, once I even noticed it, I was like, there's something going on that I need to look. I didn't even think about the work though. I thought it was literally, which I'm sure it's kind of a combination too, combination of that word, but then also the fact that those numbers had never been, you know,
Yeah,
verified as like, hey, we're able to reach out to them. They responded with like a basic on my way text or something like
yeah,
that. So that, yeah, that 100% makes sense for sure. Yeah, it's definitely good to know too, especially regardless if it's going through GorillaDesk or whatever third party platform, because I'm sure to a degree it's all relatively the same.
Another thing you can do is go right to your whatever model you're using, if it's ChatGPT, give them the language you're using and say, how would you score this on deliverability for SMS or email? What should I change so that I don't get marked as, as a bad actor by the phone carriers essentially, or the
Mhm.
email carrier delivery. So
Right.
you utilize that for yourself
Mhm.
because it's invaluable for making sure that your communication, your direct marketing and your marketing approach is actually working, not, basically hitting spam inboxes or getting blocked completely by the carrier. And then we get everybody every day, multiple times a day, why isn't my email going through? Why isn't this going
Yeah.
through? Why are my things hitting spam? Why is this? And
Yeah.
I think that it's a lot has to do with the language.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I think about, I mean, the amount of words that can just trigger that. I mean, I'm sure it's over 100 words. I'm sure if you
Yeah.
were to just go one by one.
Oh, but since we're still on AI,
Yeah.
there's some really crazy stuff coming in the future.
Hmm.
And, this isn't a way I'm kinda giving away the farm and the strategy, but, we're already on it, so everybody
Right.
else, you go do it too, man. We need this stuff. So,
Right. That's
inside
true.
GorillaDesk, you're gonna be able to, probably within a week or so, be able to draw on the map and get square footage and linear footage and use that for
Hmm.
estimating. And then soon after that, the AI will do it for you. So all the properties that you end up loading into your application will already basically have a odd schema drawing that will break out the
Yeah.
property for you based on what you wanna measure for. So let's say you tell the system, "I wanna measure sidewalks, driveways, lawns, shrubs, and trees," and so it will start
Yeah.
automatically doing that for you. Or let's say you come on a GorillaDesk and you happen to be a window, or I mean, like a pressure washing company or a roofing company, and you can say, "I wanna do
Hmm.
roofs," or "I just wanna do the sidewalks and the driveways." So, that we're getting the system now to where you'll be able to draw it yourself, but soon
Yeah.
after the AI will just kind of scan every property you're loading in the system when you want, and it will automatically do that component for you. What's also cool is in Door Mamba, what the door-to-door sales guys really want and need is they want to be able to
Uh-huh.
get that information stat without having to go to another application or do some drawing with the customer there
Right.
as fast as they can quote, the better for them, and
Exactly.
not having any pain of using
The
various
friction.
tools.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one big one that on the lawn side that we everybody's really asking for. What's cool about GorillaDesk is we are people would think we're kind of horizontal, but we're much more vertical. And we're vertical in a way that Pest Lawn is very commonly a hybrid company type.
Right.
So is
Yep.
almost lawn snow plowing and lawn Christmas lights or pest Chris,
Yeah.
like there are,
Yep.
so we consider ourselves more verticalized, but going after green hybrids, green
Right.
hybrid company industries. And so that's kind of the gorilla-esque approach. It's not saying like we're going after horizontally all these different industries. It's more like we're saying there's a bunch of companies that they kind of all work together because they're naturally hybrids. Did you know,
Right.
Griffin, that actually 90% of most companies are a hybrid company of some sort because they're doing another category as well in
Oh,
the
yeah. I
service.
mean, look at us now doing pest and lawn now. Like, first
Exactly.
4 years or so, just pest. I knew in the back of my mind lawn might be an option someday, not this soon though. And I know even a couple of competitors of mine, they've gotten into like the pool industry, for example,
Yeah.
or even more in some cases. Some have turned from, pest control to just home services where it's like they do HVAC, plumbing, this little bit of everything. It's almost too much in my opinion on some
Yeah.
things, but no, 100%. I can see where I would say at least 2/3 probably of like home services as a whole, kind of vertically integrate within each other for sure.
Yeah, so that's the real approach that we've dialed in on is that, yeah, we want to serve pest and lawn, but next we want to serve the hybrid industries that they naturally pair with
Mhm.
and make sure that those companies that want to offer those services as pest and lawn companies can do those things as well very well. And so that's kind of where our approach right now, where we're going deep on serving hybrids. It's
Yeah.
a different approach than saying I want to serve each independent vertical.
Well, an
Um,
example of you all doing this at a mass or not mass scale, but just in what I would define pure excellence is I know that my technician had mentioned, that whenever he owned his business in the Midwest, that when he started lawn, the big issue with trying to do lawn was he was like, we have rounds, so to speak, and like, I need a round for this month of the year, this month of the year, this month of the year. But I was like, well, couldn't you just do accept? And he's like, I could, but it'd be like a nightmare setting it up essentially. Where now with the service plans, you can set up a service plan, which I went through and did for round one, round two, round three, and then it just goes 365 days a year based on whenever each job is completed out. That next round will auto populate based on the I guess the parameter, so to speak, in terms of how many days after that
Yep,
next job should fire up on the schedule. And you can even see it in the customer's account in terms of how it's like on track if it continues how it should be. And yeah,
exactly.
it's really, really cool. That was a huge game changer
That
on
was a
that
big
side.
push for us because everybody's big problem is the number that like the 95% problem we were trying to solve was I wanna offer an initial service and have that automatically generate the recurring
Right.
services. We
Even
don't
pest
wanna
control.
exactly, we don't wanna be creating 2 jobs every single time and then maybe be forgetting to create that recurring service. So that's the
Right.
main problem case, and then it actually became beneficial for creating any type of, service plan, essentially. The next thing that needs to be updated is we gotta give you a way to, like, create, like, a renewal and recurring, like, a way for it to start over again,
Oh yes, yes.
which is kinda like the
100%.
next version of it before we take it out of beta completely.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, even just since you all launched, are you all on like the second version of that right now, would you say? Or is it still in that first beta?
Mm, service plans is in still its first iteration.
Okay. Because I felt like there's been a little bit of tweaking going, because I know when it first launched, I was like, combination of it being new and, having
Yeah,
to learn it. But then it, like you said, being its very first infancy stage, I was like, ooh, this is a lot. Like, anytime you all come out with a new feature, for the most part, I'm like, I'm going to let them kind of work it out a little bit. Give it about 60 days. I know that you all are lightning fast on usually pulling stuff out of beta, usually worst case scenario,
true.
like 3 to 6 months.
Exactly.
And then
But
it's almost perfect.
that's why we keep the beta tag there, just let people know, "Hey, this is still,
Right.
like, in a progression of development."
Right. Oh, and that's one thing I even try to stress a lot to these communities like on Facebook and stuff like that. I notice a lot of people will as soon as there's a tiny, tiny issue, regardless if it's something in the beta or whatever the case may be. I know you all went through like I don't know if you all like changed servers or what, I forget what it was exactly about a year ago, roughly, where you all finally had a little bit of downtime for the first time, at least since I signed up. It seemed like for a period of a couple weeks, there might have been like one morning or one weekend day, something like that, where things went a little haywire for just a couple hours at the most. But um, everyone is so quick anytime there's a
Yeah, and I'm actually
microscopic
really
issue.
proud of that because we've done so much.
Yeah.
Like, I think just having that is like, man, if you understood all the overhauling we've done, you'd be amazed. But
Oh
people
yeah.
just don't really get to see that so much.
Right.
But what we've pulled off has been amazing. It's been a game changer, underneath the hood, and everybody's gaining the benefits of all those things, even though there be, like, a slight pain of an hour. Yeah, we had, like,
Right.
a morning on a weekend where support's not available, right? And we're
Yeah.
but the whole team's here. We're just not on the front end, we're here on
Right. And
the
we're
back
trying to
end.
get it fixed. We don't got time to respond. You're all telling us
Exactly.
the same thing at the end of the day. Like, we know one person reported it. We're on it. Like, yeah. Exactly.
Another thing too is we haven't had, super extended any issues, and like you said, like, hardly ever happens now,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So,
And even
doing a great
before
job.
that little hiccup there for, I would say, a month or less, it felt like, um, I think that also spoke to just how, I guess, reliable would be the main word to describe it. GorillaDesk servers in general have been, because that was the main thing that pretty much sent me over the edge in terms of just committing to GorillaDesk. Was I knew I'd use other platforms in the past at other companies, even used a multi-million-dollar app that Terminex had, funded themselves, that would crash almost on a daily basis, it felt like, for even a whole day at times. And um, GorillaDesk, I just noticed, like, because you have that trial period, of course, like 14 days, something like that. And I noticed throughout that first week and a half, 2 weeks, I was like, it's been perfect. I
Solid.
haven't had to worry about printing out my schedule every day as a backup, even though it's probably a good idea, or at least take a screenshot, if nothing else, is general good practice. You don't really have to, though. And it just, like I said, it speaks volumes to just when people are just so used to that being the standard that, hey, that is the standard, and that shows just the excellence that you all have strived for over the last, how long has it been now? 13 years, something like that.
Coming on to 13 years now, yeah,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
November.
yeah. It's just crazy to continue to watch. I mean, and like I said, that's why I wanted to have you on. Even was just specifically the last, I would say, 24 months or so. Just the platform has gone from, you know, relatively, some little upgrades here and there to just, it feels like massive upgrades. And I keep telling people, I keep telling them over and over and over, like, this is why you need to get in, because the prices, it's impossible for it to stay the same forever. You might get lucky and get grandfathered in on some stuff, but I was like, they haven't really raised prices at all, at least since before I hopped in 5 years ago. I think you mentioned even the pro plan went up a little bit, wasn't it? Or no, it's always been 99, right?
But we have never raised prices. I mean, from
Yeah,
my after my first year, I only raised prices after my first year because literally my very first customers got, a sweet, sweet deal on this,
yeah,
but the product was nothing. It
right.
was literally just invoicing, scheduling, and, like,
Yeah,
light automation. It was
right,
nothing there, man, so, yeah, but my I don't I'm not one to desire to raise prices, I wanna deliver more value. I
right,
wanna get you guys using AI and growth plan and the features we've got there. I've gotta communicate the value that's on me and not have to raise the price because also things, from my perspective, software itself is consolidating down itself to be actually cheaper,
true.
over time. So you guys should get that benefit through not raising pricing,
Right,
and that's
right.
a
Makes it
different
where you don't
that's
want to shop around.
we can, and that's not great for us to leave money and revenue on the table, but
I know what you
you
mean.
gotta understand that I am you. I come from being you and knowing that I wanted a solution I knew, no doubt, I can afford, and so, for everybody to be able to afford, um, people really I don't think everyone really understands the value that's packed in there for
Right.
everyone because some people are expecting GorillaDesk to be like 99 a year, and that's not the type of tool you're getting here.
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
something way bigger than you
Oh,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all what you're willing to pull out of it at this point. I mean, like we went over this podcast episode, just from smart views to the AI agents, like, I mean, we could
And
go
the best
on and
support in the
on.
business.
Like,
You can call
exactly.
and get help and get something handled.
Yeah.
And actually, that is a huge competitive advantage because you guys need service and support.
Yep.
And
And
there's only a few
support.
companies like GorillaDesk where you're getting support, and there's a lot of them where you're really not. And
Right.
it's
Oh
all
no,
it's all smoke and
100%.
mirrors, it's
Yeah.
all, "Sure, we'll sell
We'll
you
email
anyway."
you back within 24, 48 hours, and then,
Yeah.
oh, well, little do you know that our customer service representatives are 12 hours either ahead or behind you, and they're gonna send you an email at 4 AM, so by the time you see it, like, it's a whole business day. That's
You got started
being
with
long.
GorillaDesk, right? Griffin, you didn't use another product? You didn't use Pest or
Technically used,
what
what was it, Square, like, my first week,
oh,
and then because I, like, had a Weebly, I think it was Weebly website and all that, and within a week, I was like, "Okay, we already got customers coming in. We can justify paying
you've
an
been
extra
lucky.
third deal."
You've been
Yeah,
lucky. So you came into an environment where the core values are here to serve you and the service is there. A lot of
right.
people aren't lucky on their first platform to get a platform and the service isn't there. A lot of people gonna know what I'm talking about because they're coming
Oh,
from
yeah.
other
Oh,
products and
and I
services.
do have a little bit of, yeah, history on it just with some of the companies that I've worked with, and that's where, like, I knew from the jump, like, be very, very critical in terms of the search for that company because I was referred to you guys as well, and, um, I know one of the main things was, like, I told him, I was like, "I know you're not very techy, so I always like to make sure whatever platform that I wanna get on, it's going to be tech, they're moving along with the technology because I know home services in general, pest control, whatever the case may be, tends to lag on everything. That's why I'm beating the table on AI on my channels and everything. Cause I'm like, guys, you don't want to be the companies during the .com era who, oh, we don't need that. And it's like, well, where are they at now? Or social media era, we don't need that. Where are they at now? Like you don't either you're gonna be left behind or you're gonna evolve with the technology. And that was the thing with signing up with GorillaDesk is I could tell just immediately. I was like, man, like I think even during my trial, you all had some. It was a very minor little upgrade. I forget what it even was now 'cause it's been years, but I was like, okay, we're not even used to those companies sending an update whenever anything of any kind. And like I said, it was something very small. I think it was something payment or QuickBooks related when the whole QuickBooks integration was really kind of ramping up there. And I was just like, man, like even just like you said, the customer support, the communication, just making sure that like you said, you're not just releasing the update, but saying like, "Hey, this is how you can utilize this." Even going to like your all's YouTube channel in terms of the
Yeah.
tutorials, the walkthroughs. I forget the name of the woman that helps you all with that. But
Christine.
sometimes it's you as well. Yeah, you all are always quick on that with the YouTube videos, the articles. Like it's all over. Like if
We've
you
also embedded the tutorials on each page for each specific tool too, which is
exactly.
really helpful, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, because even yeah, in each tool, and then you even have, I think there's like a tab in the desktop version, and I think even on the phone version as well, where same thing, you can pull it up and just figure out whatever one you need, and then go right to it, regardless if it's phone, tablet, desktop, whatever the case may be. Like it's there's not very many out there, regardless of what industry, like you mentioned, that will go to that level. So it's really I tell everyone, like, if you don't like Gorilla Desk for whatever reason, chances are you're just not trying hard enough. I
Yeah.
don't know how to make it
Yeah.
sound nice, really. At the end of the day, like you're not trying hard enough. Like you want something where that, or you may just want something super basic. It all depends on what you want, and that's what I tell them too. Is like they have different plans. Like you don't have to go with the growth plan. If you're fine being a one man show or whatever the case may be, pro version's probably more than enough. But I don't like which I guess kinda leads into one of the final questions today. Like, go about explaining how would you go about explaining to somebody, regardless of, like, their age, just somebody who's, I guess, technologically challenged, we'll say, or just resistant to technology as a whole, like, one, what even is a CRM? Like, let's say they don't know anything about it. What is a CRM and why are companies like Gorilla Desk just a must whenever you're like starting from day one? Like, you don't want to wait until you have hundreds of customers and be all disorganized. Like, why make that small investment? Because you're going to see obviously big returns out of it. But what all would you say to them?
Sure. GorillaDesk basic plan out the gates like $600 a year, and then your pro plan's 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
And then your growth plan is like 1,800 or so. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I was a technician and I was using index cards to run my schedule, you have an index card that falls between the seats, and it's the same deal.
Yeah.
You get an index card that falls between the seats, we get an angry customer. We're not taking the right approach.
Right.
We're not, and so the CRM is there to serve you as first a database of what's true and that it doesn't fail you. Software is meant to be software because it doesn't fail you and it doesn't have the human error that we're so likely to do. So you don't want when you're just trying to get going, everything matters. Everything matters. And reviews are critically important. And so when everybody's considering what plan to go for, you have to go for pro plan because reviews are the backbone when you start. And the review generator is awesome. It does what it needs to do, and you're going to be stacking reviews. So from day one, I would want my review generator up. I'd want to be on the pro plan. And, you know, a pro plan is also required for material use tracking at a higher level, and making sure we're compliant. And because we're in a compliant industry, we also need to take that very seriously.
Right.
And that's another reason why GorillaDesk is so sticky is because we're helping you guys meet compliance because of
Right.
how critically important it is if you guys end up getting audited by ag department.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another thing is it easily keeps you in compliance. What's the biggest drag ever? Getting an auditor and nothing is put together. You
Yeah.
go to GorillaDesk, the auditor looks and they're like, All right.
Mm. No,
No
you're
problem. No
100% right.
problem. Man, what a stress reliever there too.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much more than I can even say it is, but also when I started, I didn't want customers to have my personal phone number. This is the reason I'm working towards VoIP and getting it to where everybody can get VoIP, and eventually the price will become consolidated down where everybody can get it.
Mm,
Right now it's kind of a premium point, and that's where we want it to be for who's adopting it now, so we can make it where we exactly what we want it to be, and then we're gonna consolidate the price down so that everybody can
mm,
end up utilizing it.
God.
But that's the thing too, like, you've gotta set yourself up to where in the beginning, there are things that aren't working against you. Not having a CRM works against you.
Mm.
Using your personal phone number, in my opinion, over time works against you.
Oh, yeah.
So, just those 2 things alone is kind of what got me the whole itch of people need to be using this application because I know how important it is and why I built it for my family and myself, and then over time brought it to the market.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, yeah, because I remember that and I guess we didn't even really hit on that a whole lot, just, the whole background of just where the need, I guess, kinda popped up from. Because I know, I forget, you were working was it for a tech company before you started in the pest control industry and then
I,
launched
like you,
Mailchimp?
had 6, 7, 8 startups out of college.
Yeah.
Then I learned a lot, and I
Right.
understood then a bit more about software by being exposed to it by my friends starting software companies.
God.
And so then I naturally looked at my family's business and the struggle because we were using what was at that time, I think, Smart Service, which was desktop based only. It wasn't a cloud application.
Wow.
We went from index cards to Smart Service, which was all
Mhm.
only on one computer with QuickBooks on one computer,
Right,
to
right.
me saying, "I wanna build a cloud application." And then I got in my family's business for about 7 years,
Mhm.
built the cloud application with my own money, nobody's money. I had to build a route, use that money to
Right,
build GorillaDesk, and then I took it to market, you know? So I struggled
right.
for a while just to get version 1 going,
Wow.
like every single entrepreneur would. And then luckily I transitioned, giving the pest control business to my brother, and then I focused on software full time, for the last 13 years. And the first 2 years on Gorilla Software is difficult as well because the product was not anything like it
Right.
is today.
Right, yeah,
Um,
because I mean, even just from a pure what's even available from a technology standpoint, 13 years ago, we're
yeah,
talking 2012, essentially. I
yeah,
mean,
different
shoot,
world.
iPhones were still relatively at the time. I mean, you look back at what was that, I guess, the iPhone 5 maybe at the time, somewhere around there, 5S. I think that's when they started the whole S thing. Just think of that versus now, even with the
Yeah,
iPhone, same thing can go for Gorilla Desk that versus Gorilla Desk now. Not to mention the amount of money that it took to build an app back then versus even now, it's still expensive, very expensive, depending on how involved you want to,
uh,
get in terms of building it from scratch. But back then, I can only imagine just the amount of resources and
yeah.
obviously time. And, I
Something
mean,
else a
you didn't
little
have
funny.
ChatGPT to help you with code or anything
Yeah.
like that, or Claude or any of those. Like, yeah.
What's funny are the guys that are like, or the companies are like, "I'll just go build it ourselves." And man, good luck. Go
Yeah.
do it. You'll have a world of pain,
Oh,
and you're not gonna have the momentum we have because there's millions of dollars being invested in a Gorilla Desk,
mhm.
hundreds of
Well, y'all got a
patents.
marketing machine too at this point. I mean, I see
Yeah,
you all, even as a signed up user, I'm seeing you all everywhere.
yeah,
Facebook all the time. Of course, you all do a lot of the events. I know you're mentioning Pest World, and even some other ones. I know I'll see you or Rebecca, somebody, just
yeah,
out and about at a woman's one or whatever the case may be. Like, you guys are everywhere. It goes back to what me and Jonas were talking about in our interview last week about, even if somebody goes out and builds, say, a dare I say, better application, you got to get the marketing on point because regardless, the best known's going to beat the best every time. And the good thing for you all is like you're not just the best known or getting to the point where you all are the best known, like you have what I would say is definitely the best product out there. I mean, the
yeah.
thing that I've heard is maybe field routes, just because. But again, they're one of those where I think it's just more so best known. Because I can say, I know you're not going to say anything about them, of course, but I can say from experience, like it's not even close.
Yeah.
Just it is.
We're basically leaving these guys in the dust. The larger entities that got acquired multiple times over,
Yeah.
product is no longer the focus.
Right.
And that's now becoming a competitive advantage over on our side. There's
100%.
two more things I want to touch on really quick. One
Mhm.
is we're going to end up rolling out um, a administrative support AI within your GorillaDesk where you can basically, like you're contacting chat support,
Mhm.
you'll be able to hit our AI tool first and get the same type of immediate answers anytime you want them, like our chat support would usually provide you,
Right. Right.
which is cool. So we're taking the
Yeah.
same tool that we've given you, we're now reutilizing it internally to
Right.
provide you guys a support team. Now, a lot of people, especially in our industry, are very wary of,
Mhm.
I don't want to talk to a robot, right? But
Yeah.
there are things where you want an immediate answer. And then there are things where you want to escalate more difficult things. So we basically made it really cool where you could just swap between, I want to ask my AI support and I want to ask my real support team. You can go between
Right.
them.
That's
Another
funny you
thing,
mentioned that.
yeah, another thing that's going to be game changing, and this is kind of giving away the gold, is that Gorilla Desk right now is building an LLM on our database structures,
Okay.
which is basically going to give you a customized model to interact with, utilizing all of your Gorilla Desk data and all the context of all the fields of your data the AI will understand.
Yeah.
So you will essentially have a CEO, a COO, a rep, a
CFO.
service rep, whatever you want in one,
Yeah.
because the tool will soon be wrapped into all of your data set with context, and you will be able to utilize it in ways that you don't even understand yet.
Right.
It's going to be, and if other CRMs are not integrating
How
a language model like we are, there will be no chance for them anymore.
right. Right.
This is coming very soon. So imagine you be able to go to Gorilla Desk. Hey, I want you to create a report on this with these fields. Send me this report every week at this time. Let me know strategically based on what's happening in my system where I should expand, focus, what things should I be doing, I'm not doing. It's going to be so remarkable. It's, I don't know. We don't even know all the uses yet,
Oh my gosh.
you know?
Yeah. That makes me I need to slow down. I might as well just halt what I'm doing in terms of creating some GPTs then, because it's funny you mentioned that, because literally I've created 2 or 3 GPTs over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks now, where I'm literally doing something kind of similar, but it's all just obviously for me within Claude and ChatGPT,
Yeah.
essentially, in short. And the difference is I have to feed it the data.
Exactly, and we're noticing our largest customers are having pains doing that and trying to get to even much more advanced analytics, and
And getting it
essentially once
100% accurate too, because you can feed it perfect data sometimes, and
yeah,
I'll tell it, dude, you're missing like half of this. You're missing, and then like it'll take that and then remove the other. And I'm like, no, no, no. What are you understanding? Like, I need all of it. Like, put it in a bar graph or something. Like, it's still struggling in a lot of cases to absorb all of that. So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you all get that. Like I said, I might as well just instead of getting mad at it, just be like, hey, couple more months, maybe be good to go. What would you all think, say, I mean, of course, it's possible to say, but I know with a lot of just your all's features, as soon as you think about them, usually within 60 to it seems like 120 days at the most, a lot of your stuff goes into beta. From the moment you bring it up on a Facebook group, for example, like the Girl Desk community, you mention it, like what's coming soon, within 60 days or so, boom, beta.
It may seem that way, but we have years of product insight,
Mhm.
and years of future roadmap. It's well planned, and
Right.
of course, AI and what we have now has been accelerated, and it looks different in ways than we had thought possibly, but it's even more exciting than we thought. Uh,
Mhm.
so it's kind of like we also are able to pivot too. So when it comes to I would say that a lot of those decisions are much more accelerated, like you're thinking, but there is
Mhm.
still a bit more planning than you're thinking too. Like
Right.
we're about a year out on everything that we're not a year out on everything, but a year out on our
Right.
largest initiatives. And, but you're also right, when there becomes something compelling like that contact form, we started
Mhm.
getting tons of customers from Jobber, and they're like, "We need this." And it's,
Right.
"Alright, accelerate this, bring it to the front, release it in 4 weeks." So we
Right.
do that at times, where we're getting too much happening on the front end, on the sales side, we're like, "Accelerate that," or we're getting too much feedback on the customer side, "Accelerate that." So,
Right.
but my
Right.
larger initiatives usually go through, I'd say about 6 to 7 months, is about the right timeline from concept, ideation, design UI implementation.
Right.
A lot of iteration happens at the design phase because what happens is we throw up and we put
Mhm.
everything down and it's a mess. And
Yeah.
then it's all about editing it out so that you're
Yeah.
cleaning it out and you're making it feel highly intuitive. You want that end user to just click a button. We
Right.
gotta get
Right.
man, get it all back to a button. Oh, and I'm constantly pushing the team and saying, "That's not easy enough. That's not that quality's not there." And the thing about Gorillas and why it feels so cohesive is that there's 3 of us that have been here since the beginning, and we
Right.
know the product from the beginning, and we know the
Yeah.
product in its end state that we envision. And so there's this thread that always remains, and you don't end up with a product that's a mess and uncohesive. And,
Exactly.
that's kind of we're getting of the value of that now in the market because people feel that in our product, that it's one cohesive product, almost like one person's been working on it, and
Right.
nothing's getting lost in translation, nothing's getting really screwed up, and I mean, you need that. It's gotta be that tight. Um,
Yeah.
so, you know
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And that it's funny you mentioned the whole like it's been like three of you guys because I remember when I first signed up, even I think the first call I got was from Blake, if I remember right. And for the longest, I almost forgot that he was even part of the team. And I saw him recently. I don't remember if he was on a podcast or what. I saw him somewhere online. I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't seen that dude in years. Like I was like, he just looks so different. I didn't even know he's with GorillaDesk anymore. Like just things you don't think about until you see somebody again or whatever the case may be. But yeah, no, like how would you say just that, I guess, tight knitness of your business in terms of, the founders staying together like that? And how would you say that translates into the rest of the team
Is your
too?
question trying to get to what does the dynamic of the team feel like?
Pretty much.
Question?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was like the overall dynamic of the team? Yeah.
We we prioritize customer first. Um, we're hard on each other.
Hmm.
Everybody's challenging each other at every step, not in a hard way, more like in a,
Right.
because we've done it so much, like we understand where everybody's coming from,
Right.
and we can basically have like just a few words and people know exactly where we're coming from. There's not much we need to say for someone to understand exactly because we've done it. Oh, that's this production loop so many times over.
Yeah.
Um, and so we're so used to it. I guess you'd say in one way we're very comfortable and
Right.
we become kind of an expert at our way of doing things. We keep core values at the forefront. So Tiger, tinker, integrity, growth, empathy, and remarkable.
Mm.
And so when we're interacting with each other, integrity is at the top of mind, as well as empathy, as well as wanting to give our fellow team a remarkable experience. A remarkable experience internally means you're working on the things you want to work with and the dynamic is healthy and that there's integrity. And a lot of it comes down to integrity. And integrity means you're being whole and complete. What does
Right.
whole and complete mean? It means if there's anything that's bothering you, it needs to come up and be addressed. And
Yeah.
so we come up with this concept of being whole and complete. Um, and a lot of it's because it's for me, it's what I need. I need to be whole and complete with everybody. So I'm like, we need to get an integrity today. Here's the things that we need to align on and where we need to move. And um, so I think when we come from core values, the understanding of core values and having the leadership kind of embody them for so long, that becomes a natural extension of what we've been doing and allows us to be highly effective.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no,
But
100%.
yeah,
There's so
every
many good
company needs
points
a
there.
foundation of integrity in my mind. If a lot of people think they could take, I may take the core value of integrity. No, the foundational core value of every business is integrity. Because without integrity as the bottom foundational core value, nothing works.
Right.
Okay, without
100%.
integrity, nothing works. If we're not in integrity, just like an engine, a piece of the engine's out of integrity, the whole thing,
Yep.
boom.
Exactly.
So what I've learned as a leader is you've got to address things sooner than you even think, because we
Yep.
will allow things out of comfort, and not wanting to have a uncomfortable situation. We'll allow things to go almost indefinitely, and that's really bad. And so if you're a really effective operator, you're going to take your speed of change is going to be as fast as possible. And we learn this over time. We make our first hire, we fire too
Yep.
slow. You do that a few times, and then the pain's there, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then
Yep.
the same thing happens on other decisions you make. Speed of decision is really critically important. Um,
100%.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I think, man, there's so much just in that, like, 2 minutes there that, like, even myself, I'll probably go back and just listen to it, thank God I got YouTube Premium because 'cause I'll just lock my phone and listen to it over and over. Because I mean, that's kind of where I know a lot of not just myself, but even my viewers, listeners are kind of at that early stage of, first tech, first admin, probably 5 employees or so, maybe even less. And maybe have never even led a team before. Just used to being a technician, maybe used to being a salesman, maybe a service manager at best. And even the service managers, they're kind of served a bad deal in terms of, it's not so much leading, you're just uh, as the saying goes, shit rolls downhill. Essentially, especially those bigger companies, the branch manager barks down the order to the service manager who barks it down from, and it just rolls downhill from there. Where so like a lot of people, including myself, like we have to leadership is not just something you're born with. Like you have to be kind of like discipline. If you're not working on it every single day, you're making withdrawals from and deposits or withdrawals every single day. And I definitely encourage everybody to, like I said, re-listen to just that last couple minutes over and over because even just your what acronym there with Tiger, like there, you hear a lot of corporations, the bigger ones, they have this thing on the wall or whatever, but whenever you can actually explain like you did, this is what it is, this is what's actually like the foundation of it all and lay it all out, then it's easier. And then actually not just lay it all out, but actually be a walking example of that. Like you said, not holding anything in, even though you might be thinking, gosh, I don't want to have this conversation. I really don't want to do this, but this is what we have to do ultimately, otherwise the ship
Yeah.
sinks.
One other
It just
part of
gets
that
more
is
important as you get bigger.
exactly different. And a lot of times it's never really what you say, it's what you do.
Right.
All right. So we can think we're leaders by coming in and talking a bunch of whatever, but honestly, the talk is wasted time.
Right.
Go and show by example. It's the only way, and
100%.
you guys show up that way every day. And when you don't and you falter, you own it and you say, "Hey guys, I messed up here. I'm out of integrity." And here's the thing about being human. We all go out of integrity and we can all get back in integrity
Exactly.
in a moment. In a moment, okay? I can screw up in a moment and then I can say to you, "Griffin, I screwed up. I'm sorry. I'm human. How can I get it right? I want to get back in integrity." It's the fact of getting back in integrity. What it does is it lifts a burden off of you so that you can create freely.
Mhm.
If I'm out of integrity with you, let's say you and I were out of integrity before this call.
Right.
This call, there'd be a weight that, and people would feel it and see it
Yeah, yeah.
that we're interacting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, you see it all the time in some of even the largest podcasts out there, even or even on TV in a lot of cases.
Exactly, and so if teams are gonna work in that way, there's some level of psychopathy
Mhm.
If they're working in a way that isn't suitable to being good conditions,
Mhm.
and being taking a framework of an integrity and integrity alignment gives you the conditions for having amazing conditions for progressing together healthily as a team
Right.
and for yourself as a leader. And
Right.
being also easy on yourself, knowing that we go out and come back in. How many times this year have you owned being out of integrity with yourself to yourself? And
Right.
how many times have you owned being out of integrity with someone else in your life or a former
Mhm.
team member? How
Mhm.
many times have you owned it? That's character.
Yeah.
That's extreme character. So I invite everybody, integrity as a framework. You can look up. There's an article by a Harvard professor, Michael something Gerber, possibly. I'm not sure, but
Oh,
just look
yeah,
up
yeah, Michael
integrity.
Brewer, yeah. Yeah, yep,
Look
yep.
up integrity as a framework. He does an article, and it will explain to you this concept that I'm trying to have you understand.
Yeah, yeah, no, you'll have to even send that to me so I can, put it in, like, the show notes in the description box for everybody to take a
Sure.
look at as well on there. Cause yeah, no, and I think he even wrote that book, The E-Myth, if I remember right, as well. I think it was him that wrote that
And
one.
maybe I'm not sure if it's the
Uh,
same exact guy or not.
I know
Um,
it's
I have the name
the
wrong. I'm
back
not
there,
sure.
but yeah, he goes
Don't quote
like,
me,
I'm
guys, but it is
very
called,
close.
yeah, integrity as a framework. Look up that, or
Yeah,
I'll send it to you,
yeah,
after the call, and then you can provide it to everybody. But another great
yeah,
thing that we could do is, like, we should do, like, a core value workshop. You guys need to, from the very beginning, establish your core values. You need to be able to hire and fire and, promote people based on core
right,
values, and if you don't know how to do that, that's a fundamental part of being a leader, is understanding how to utilize a core value framework to hire, fire, and promote.
right, no, that's a great point as well. I think even, I don't know, you probably heard of him, I know almost everybody in the entrepreneur space has, Andy Frisella
Yeah.
actually talks a lot about, like, dude, you build your foundation in terms of, the leadership and your organization, your core values strong enough and implement them hard enough, like you said, not hard in a mean way, but just like, this is what it is. This is how we do it. It'll get to a point that if you do all the heavy lifting early on in that regard, that most of the time you don't even have to get to the fire stage because they weed themselves out because your other employees, they're holding that standard and then they will peer pressure that individual that's not living up to that standard to the point where if they're not going to jump on board, they end up getting annoyed to the point where they're like, dude, this isn't for me. I'm out of here. This is a cult or whatever the case may be. Like, or there's like, I'm not a fit. And it makes it where your job as the leader when it comes to the firing part can be at least a little bit easier at times because it's like
Hmm.
your team is just so strong. And I would love to get up there someday too. Just to,
Regarding what you just said, you're kinda right on, because when you sit down with an employee and you do a review, a part of that review is all around core values,
hmm
So, like Tiger, Tinker, Integrity, Growth, Empathy, Remarkable. You might be amazing on most of them, but out of alignment on one. I
hmm
need you in alignment in all of them. And so in that review, I'll say, here's the story of what happened and why that doesn't align with this core value, and then how to get back aligned. And
hmm
then you get buy-in from that employee. And then if you end up there a week or 2 weeks again on the same core value problem, they are opting themselves out,
exactly.
because now they see, like, do I want to align with this or do I not want to align with
Exactly, and yeah, exactly, and he went on a tangent about that too, where he was like, a lot of times you are scared to fire somebody, especially early on, but then when you actually get to that, they almost know before you even sit down. They're a lot of times they'll be like, "You're fired, aren't you?"
That's right.
Like, I was just waiting for it. I've just been going through the motion. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, both sides were just avoiding that conversation more than anything. Like,
And
both
that's the
knew it was
problem.
over.
The avoidance is
Exactly.
the avoidance is the absence of the integrity framework.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So integrity's on the bottom first. Integrity means bringing up when we're not core value aligned,
Mhm.
especially, and not allowing that to go too far, or else then it becomes your fault
Right.
because you're
Exactly.
not utilizing the framework, properly as the
Yeah.
owner, CEO, or operator, or manager, whoever's doing it.
Exactly. I mean, as hard as it is, I mean, as the saying goes, they don't call it the 1% for nothing. Like if you really want it, you're gonna have to do a lot of what no one wants to do. That's why no one does it. But I mean, I think, matter of fact, probably the last 20 minutes or so was probably, at least for me, some of the most impactful, just at least where I'm at in my journey. Like I said, I know a lot of my viewers, listeners are at as well. So might even have to dice it up a little bit into a couple. We'll have the main podcast.
People like long form, man. I would keep it as it is,
Oh, I'm definitely
throw it
gonna
up
keep it
there,
as it
man,
is. Yeah, yeah,
and,
no, I'm
put some shorts out there, and then let's do something where it's, a little bit more around, just focus core values only. Because everybody, if you
yeah,
don't have it as a foundation, it's a missing component that becomes vital, that you end up having so much pain
yeah,
through the beginning without it, that you're gonna have to revisit it anyway, so you guys better get it down, as soon as
exactly,
you can.
exactly, and that's where I've been lucky to have a lot of grace. The technician that I hired first, he is my cousin, and he owned his own pest control business for a while, so a lot of what we did, it gelled, but there was growing pains there where, like, we both had to communicate, and me specifically had to communicate what my expectation is as the, owner of the
Yeah.
company. Like, that's where I even talk on my channel a lot, whole nother video for a whole nother day, but, why
And
learning
congrats, Griffin, because it also looks like you're growing, like, by, more than 25% at least this year. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, since hiring him, as a matter of fact, I mean, we had our first, man, I thought we were gonna hit 40 for a second, but first $35,000 month even. Part of
Awesome.
that thanks to a big installation job, but, yeah, no, I mean, at this rate, I feel like we should, at the minimum, probably do around a quarter million or so. We're aiming for 300 or more, so we
That's a
got a ways to
double.
go
You're
there,
killing it,
but
man.
yeah, no, I mean, it like I tell everybody, getting over the hurdle that first hire. Me and Jonas talked about it briefly. Like, for some people, for a lot of people, actually hiring the admin is usually the best route early on, especially when you come from like a tech background. In my case, it was actually opposite. I'm very driven on a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, the marketing, this and that and the other. So I did the opposite, and it worked out perfectly for me. Where he moved down here and needed a job, so it all worked out ultimately. But either way, you have to decide to pull the trigger at some point, and you're going to make mistakes regardless. But, you implement what Chris was saying the last 20 minutes or so now. It, the quicker you do it, the easier, like you mentioned, it makes everything easier as you
A
continue.
final thought on that. You guys, if you've had a bad hire, you don't know what it feels like yet to have a great one. And when you have a great one, you don't wanna go back, and it's gonna reframe your mind. So
Hmm.
commit yourself to finding a great one. It takes time. And honestly, we're not great selectors. We're maybe 50-50% at best. Okay. Unless you're getting direct referral, you've already known this person before. But even then, it may not work out. All right. So
Exactly.
don't be so hard on yourself if you're not getting it right the first few times, even. But no, when you get that first great hire, then you understand how this all comes together and starts working.
No, that's 100% spot on. I mean, I technically hired my first technician about a year and a half ago prematurely. Whole thing was a blessing in disguise where it didn't work out because it made the parting ways a little bit easier. But like you said, that was a totally wrong hire on my part, and it was a referral, as a matter of fact, but just wasn't a fit whatsoever. And now having the right
What was your
hire.
key learning from that? What was, like, the main impactful learning?
Oh man, that's such a great question. So you should be doing podcasts with the questions. Man, oh my gosh, what was my biggest learning? Don't wait. This is the biggest one. The biggest lesson that I learned out of the first failure in my hiring journey was, do not wait until your back's against the wall to hire. Hire too soon, what you think is too soon. Again, being an entrepreneur, business owner, it's all about taking the risk. And someday you got to just, pull the trigger. Just like when you go hunting for the first time, those that are hunters, like, you're pointing right at the deer. Are you going to shoot, or are you just going to let it go? Like, same thing with hiring. Either you're going to pull that trigger and hire, or you're gonna wait until it's too late and then your back's against the wall and you're just like, dude, I just need a body. Like as long as you got a body, not a bad driving record, and can follow simple instructions, then you're on. And then you realize it's not that simple. And so yeah, that's the main takeaway from that is just do not wait until you feel like, oh, the money's there now. Like hire too soon, dare I say. Now don't be reckless with it, obviously, but hire too soon to where, okay, my back's against the wall, but I'm controlling, everything now in terms of, hey, we can go knock doors, we can do that. You can always go get more money at the end of the day, but you can't regain reputation if you hire the wrong employee and then end up keeping them too long. That that would definitely be my main takeaway from that for sure.
Awesome. In regards to hunting, I did get my first elk last year.
Oh yeah.
And if anybody else wants to know anything about me, I am really into precision rifle shooting.
Oh
A lot of my guys are like I have a lot of military friends, and I'm
wow.
the one non-military guy, and
Yeah, yeah.
they've got me out there. What's so
Yeah.
cool is the very first precision rifle shooting course I took, Griffin, it was me and my class, and the whole class, all their faces were blurred out. And I didn't even know. They sent me the photo. I'm like, man, those guys must have all been special forces guys. Because we were shooting out to like 1,000 yards. And these guys were incredible, Griffin. If you saw
Oh my gosh.
how effective military snipers are, a precision rifle, it's mind blowing. Like,
Science. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's some I got to witness some really gifted people in precision rifle, and it became very inspiring. So that's something else I like to do.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, I didn't even know that. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because um anymore it seems like less and less people are into it for whatever reason.
Shooting guns quiets your mind. I have a respectful
Oh my
fear of
gosh.
guns, and so I honestly I don't think of anything else when I'm shooting guns or playing guitar. As well as I love the gym as well, that's
Oh
also
yeah.
therapeutic, but if I'm shooting a gun, I can't think about anything else. If I'm playing
No.
guitar, I'm not thinking about anything else. So that's finding things like that are really healthy.
That
Those are
tests your I want to say manhood because it's not just men, of course, but just testing your I don't even know, not fortitude either. I can't think of the word that I want to use for that. Just testing your, I guess, mental toughness, I guess, in terms of just your ability to lock in on something that's, in some cases, in the case of guns, life or death in some cases. And, um, just building, working that muscle.
It's
And
like
then, like you
golf.
said, in
You're
the case
shooting
of,
at targets. It's like golf. Precision rifle shooting is like golf.
oh, yeah,
Set it
no,
on that match,
100%.
like golf.
Yeah,
And you just
exactly.
happen to get a great skill out of it at the same time.
Exactly. 100%. And same thing goes with the gym. Like that works another muscle in terms of just discipline more than at least for me, discipline. And like you said, it's a valve for a stress valve. You have a bad day. That's why I actually stopped working out in the mornings because I was like, for one, I'm not a morning person. Two, I can get more done in the morning when I just get up, get straight to work in the morning, and then exhaust myself, at least my mental. Usually I'm pissed off about something at some point during the day, and I don't want it to ruin my day. So at that point, we drop everything, go to the gym,
Yeah.
get it in, and then okay. Because I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, which that's a whole nother subject we get into in a whole nother interview. It's just letting one little thing in business, ruin your day. A customer canceling, customer leaving your first bad review ever, even those total BS review in some cases. Like just you can't let these little things just wreck your whole day because it'll wreck all the production and it gets into a whole deal with manifestation and all that stuff too. So, um, yeah, no, like we said, a lot of good stuff in this entire podcast. I guess the last final question that I always like to ask everybody as well is just if there was one book that you had to recommend to, regardless of stage of business, anything like that, one book that you had to read for the rest of your life that you could take the most out of, what book
Read
would
for
that
the rest of my life.
be? Yeah, and just continuously pull information from it.
This is gonna be kind of weird, not business oriented, but
Mhm.
anything by Eckhart Tolle.
Mm.
It's a more of a spiritual guidance type character.
Mhm.
But I think what he has taught me the most is how to turn off overthinking.
Mm.
You know, a lot of times we get stuck in overthinking,
Oh,
or we can't, or we're unable to get to a place where to quiet our mind. And again, I'm a creative. You know, I'm a creative first.
right,
So to create a space to be creative, you have to
mhm,
have a blank mind.
right,
So, you know, Eckhart Tolle has really helped me establish practices for doing that.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
studying anything, I'm not really into meditation as much as it is,
right,
can I get myself into a state where I'm not thinking? And
mhm,
it's like I am just experiencing and
mhm.
flowing with what my ideas are, my creativity, as well as in the music. And, you know, I think that's a superpower.
Oh, 100% it is. There's a whole study. I forget the billionaire who runs a YouTube channel now about just the mindset of, the mega rich and all this stuff. It's Michael something as well. As a matter of fact, I just came across him recently and he talks about that, how, there's actual ways that they can test your was it your brainwave frequency? And a lot of times they notice with high performers, be it regardless if they're rich or athletes, whatever the case may be, they have that ability to just forget about everything, so to speak. Um, and it actually changes the frequency that like something that I'm not scientific
Yeah.
at all. I want to in that regard, but just it changes something about the frequency of how
Yeah.
your
The
brain
body is at the
functions.
effect of the mind. The
Exactly.
mind leads what's happening. It also leads our relationships in the way that we interact with each other. And there's a lot that
Yeah.
we can't see. Okay. There's only certain wavelengths which we can see. But there's
Exactly.
actually, I believe, wavelengths that are happening
Mhm.
that stem from our brain and then affect us completely biologically in the way that we basically are kind of pulsing against each other in some way.
Yes.
And, you know, I know it's kind of whatever, but
Oh.
I kind of feel that. You feel it, you know, we feel
Oh,
it.
no.
I kind of really believe.
Yeah, and there's countless examples of it. I mean, whenever you're talking about somebody and then they literally call you 2 seconds after you mention their name. You talk about some dream over and over and over and over. Like, I knew for since I was 17 years old, I was like, "I'm not going to be an employee my whole life." Like, I just knew it and said it to myself over and over and over, and how it came about, I wasn't expecting, but again, you just like you said, you're putting it off, and regardless of just beliefs and everything like that, there's just certain proof out there when it comes to stuff like that that you just can't deny. Ultimately, there's too much proof out there, regardless of what people want to believe. Like it's something that is highly, highly underrated, kind of hidden under the rug. It seems we could get into the powers that be in that
There's certain
regard.
times in my life I know where your mind ends up becoming a broken record if you're really dissatisfied. Where you start saying, especially guys that are trying to transition from working for someone to working for themselves. And it usually sounds like this. I hate my life. 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 Okay? And so we need to change that, rewire it. We need to quiet the mind. And when you do that, you need to inflexively say, I love my life. I love my life. I love
Exactly.
my life. I'm grateful for what I have. I love my life. You guys, if you're
Exactly.
experiencing that, it's like a broken monkey mind. It's on repeat and
Mhm.
it's hurting you, you know?
100%.
So let's and it happens to everyone,
Oh, yeah.
right? I'm not
Oh,
so
100%.
you guys, we're all there in the same boat and you're gonna
Exactly.
learn these tools and understand that you have to have tools. And the
Mhm.
direct tool is to be able to flip it and recreate a new frame as well as being able to put that away. That's not you. We are
Right.
above that animal, chameleon brain. Be
Exactly.
able to witness yourself. Understand the way that you act and react and behave and
Yeah.
decide something new for yourself. You
Exactly.
have the power to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I would suggest everybody, like, look up some of the guys, like, Brian Tracy's of the world and stuff like that. Like there's some powerful, powerful stuff that if you implement it, like you say, you don't have to meditate and all this other
And
stuff.
look, if you guys are
Can.
if anybody is feeling that way right now, reach me,
Yeah.
if any of you, because I know exactly what that's like.
Oh yeah.
You guys all out there, if you're in that position, reach out and I'll
Right.
help you reframe it because it's critically
100%.
important for your safety and health
Oh
to
yeah.
have that kind of, well put together.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you put all the business stuff aside, like, I mean, from suicide rates to even people getting sick. I mean, people don't think about, when you're watching the news and you hear about, oh, this new flu bug or, oh, God, get into COVID or whatever. I don't even know if I want to say that on the channel,
Yeah.
might get censored or something. But, you hear about this next virus of some kind coming out and you start thinking about it, thinking about it. Next thing you know, boom, sick. Where I notice I haven't had any social media hardly on my phone. I'm late to everything. Usually my days are even weeks in some cases at this point now. And I haven't been sick at all this year ever since. And I don't get sick much generally anyways, just because I don't really think about it, which I think plays a huge role in it at the end of the day. Like we said, how you're programming your mind, whatever you think about will, when you think about it over and over and over, it will either A, continue to happen, or it will happen regardless if it's negative, positive, but there's never neutral. It's always positive or negative. And then,
The mind leads into the negative, and we have to proactively be positive and grateful and reframe.
exactly.
It's kind of how it is. It's a constant battle, and you can actually rise above that battle with a lot of practice and kind of you develop yourself a skill and you become um, a you know un, the mind doesn't affect you as badly as once before, and you understand it, and you can come at it in a new way, in which you're empowered.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. Yeah. I think that is a great point to leave off. Like Chris said, I mean, shoot, if any of my followers or anything like that, I mean, you all need anything. Of course, most of us are in the same Discord group, Facebook groups, all this stuff. So we have social media. I mean, reach out, tap in and make a change at the end of the day, regardless if it's a small change or complete overhaul
Yeah,
in some cases. Either
we
way.
want you guys to be successful, man. You're gonna
Exactly.
achieve what you need to
Exactly.
achieve.
Yeah,
All right, man.
that's the whole point. But yeah, no, I appreciate you for hopping on, brother. If you need anything from me, of course, just give me a shout. And I guess, is there anything in terms of Gorilla Desk, lastly, just that they should know about? In terms of course, I know that if they want to try Gorilla Desk out, we have the link where they get 2 free weeks of the pro version, as a matter of fact, which was always in the description box of the videos. But is there anything else, just lastly, that they should know about? I know we dove a lot into it today, but just
I
anything you
mean,
want to touch on.
Gorilla Desk is creating a gap. We're out ahead, and all I say is just consider us, give us a shot, and we're here to serve everybody. I've been at it a long time, and I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
And so you're gonna see um, a lot of accelerated pace based on what
Right.
we're up to. And I believe that our home here is the best home for everybody out there if they're trying to make a selection where to be, because we genuinely want to help you. We'll care, and everybody's concerned. The amount of feedback that I read personally, and my direct team around me, we look at everything. If you guys are reaching out to us, we've read it, we've seen it, we've taken it to heart, and that's what you have here. So that's all. Just consider us. Take a look at Gorilla Desk. Try the 14-day trial. During that time, you can get a demo, and then once you sign up, you can get trained, and you get training sessions for the duration as long as you're a subscriber. Of the
Right.
application. Um,
And that's an
and
underrated part of this own. They
yeah,
all get
it's all
training at the
included. We
video.
don't charge for onboarding. We onboard over
Exactly.
50 companies every single week flawlessly from other applications. Our onboarding process is, I mean, we've got everything really dialed in, and we're not even charging you guys for it because of how
Right.
dialed in we got it.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, no, like we said, if you guys do want to try it out, why not? It's free. You all don't even have them put credit cards on file. I noticed. Like, there's literally no gimmicks to it at all in terms of, oh, gotcha, you didn't cancel on time.
No
Anything like that
contracts,
at
nothing like
all.
that, yeah.
No contracts. Exactly. You can upgrade, downgrade anytime you wish. So I mean, 14 days, no strings attached. Might as well at least try it out, see what happens. And if during that trial too, if I can help you all too in any way, then always just reach out in the Facebook group, Discord group, whatever the case may be. And then we'll just take it from there. But yeah, no, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we actually went way over what we both expected for this one. But no, I know the
Take your
audience is
time.
gonna appreciate it big time. Same here. No, I told my wife going in, I was like, so you're actually the first where I'm actually interviewing instead of being the interviewee. I was like, it's gonna be tough. Like I'm just gonna have to nod my head a lot, which I'm sure I'm gonna go back and edit and see modern night. Cause I'm like, I'm just so used to jumping in answering, and it's adjustment for sure.
Gotcha.
So I appreciate it, and I'm sure this won't be the last time that you're on. I'm sure once we fast forward 6 to 12 months in terms of Girl Desk developments, we'll have you back on. And
Thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate everything you do and how you speak about us. It really means a lot, and, again, anything I can do for you, let me know.
oh yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Alrighty. See you, Griffin. Bye.